Hey everybody, here we are, Filmmakers number 8, Brad Houston, and I'm excited today. I'm not sure, and so forgive me if somebody else in this series was a documentarian, but this is definitely the first anthropologist, documentarian, filmmaker, writer, director that I've had. And I've been talking with Lisa on and off online through LinkedIn, I think for a little while now, and I am so intrigued by her story. She strikes me as somebody who has had a life of adventure, and also most of that being in the pursuit of doing things that are meaningful. So she has, I guess, put a lot of time and energy into studying people and into creating visual content that not just delivers a message, but is also artistic and poetic. And she just cleared up the documentary feature of the year award at the Berlin Film Festival. So that's pretty exciting to add amongst the other laurels and nominations that she's got for her most recent film, which I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the name because I know that I'm probably going to stuff it up. But I know it's a topic super personal to her because it's from her hometown or home island, in fact, in Italy. And I guess some of the things that have been happening there that are somewhat disturbing would be a significant understatement. So we will have her with us in just a moment and we can hear her story firsthand.
Hello.
Lisa.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, good. Welcome. Thank
Thank you.
you. Thanks for joining us.
My
So,
pleasure.
now, are you in Milan at the moment?
Sorry?
Are you in Milan?
Yes, I am. Yes, it's morning. It's the sun is starting to come up between the clouds. It's pretty cold. Getting cold here. It's winter.
Yeah, not so cold here. T-shirt weather. We're definitely swimming here on the Sunshine Coast.
Lucky you.
Yeah. So, look, I'm really, as I was saying in the introduction there, really pleased to have you on the show because we've been talking for a while, and sometimes I've been reaching out, and you've been sailing between one area and another, which sounds very luxurious and glamorous. And then I was looking at your Instagram, and you've definitely got some great photos in there. So it looks like
Thank
you've had
you.
an interesting life so far, which I'd love to hear more about. And congratulations for your recent wins. Now,
Thank you.
please help me with how do we pronounce the name of your film? I didn't want to. I thought I would probably get it wrong if I attempt it.
It's Balentes.
Balentes.
Yeah. Which
Beautiful.
means the brave ones in Sardinian language, where I come from. Sardinia is a beautiful island of Italy, and that's where I come from.
Yes, indeed. So tell us about the story, I guess, behind the documentary for people who haven't read it. I mean, actually, sorry, maybe let's give us a little quick, I guess, introduction to who you are, and then we'll talk about the film because it is, I guess, the most recent that you've produced, and of course, it's exciting with the recognition that you've been getting for that production, and then we'll kind of go into your backstory because I'd really love to hear more about that as well. So, yeah, start by just filling us in with a bit about yourself and about the film.
So I am half Italian, half Australian. My dad's Australian, and my mom is Italian from Sardinia, this beautiful island of Italy. Yeah, when I was 18, to sort of follow my dad's footsteps, where I see he was from Melbourne. So I moved there to study. I went to university, and I lived in Melbourne for 10 years, and then I moved to Sydney and for other few years, and I really loved Australia. It
Yeah.
was great, but having my family here in Italy, I was missing them, and I was missing a bit of the culture, the movida, the everything that makes Italy great, and being also in Europe, and so I moved back just a year and a half, 2 years ago. Uh,
Mm.
I'm an
Yeah.
anthropologist, as you
Yeah.
said. I'm also a filmmaker. To film school after my years working with Aboriginal communities, and and then I started making films, telling those stories that I thought were amazing and were worth chatting about, and getting an audience to get to know this really inspirational stories of bravery, and also in spite of all those adversities that a lot of First Nation people go through. And then I decided to make a film about my own First People, which are Sardinian people, which are a minority as well, linguistic and ethnically. They've been discriminated a lot. They've been conquered many times. And they have similar problems. We face different but similar. And then I went back to make a documentary about my beautiful island. And then I guess I discovered this military bombing from NATO. And I thought, oh my God, this is a documentary I'm supposed to make.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, it's very confronting, very disturbing, particularly with some of the imagery within the trailer. So if people want to actually find their way to that, if they search for Lisa Camillo and Barestas, then they will get to your website. I think even just Lisa Camillo and you get a documentary, you got to find your website, and then you can find information on the film. So,
Yes.
so you had no idea at all that that this was going on there whilst you were away.
Look, I remember seeing when I was a kid, but I thought it was kind of normal.
Mm.
Uh, military submarines coming up, passing by every time in front of my house, and I thought, what the, that's what we used to live, because we had a U.S. military base just near where we were living.
Mm.
So it was kind of normal. That's how a child see things, and then you start wondering more and more, and then I came back, and I kind of connected the two and two together. I heard that people were getting sick around these areas, military areas, with mysterious cancers, and I thought, oh my God, why? So I let the two things connected, and then discovered that they really are, and there are some court cases that are now been going for years and years, trying to compensation for these people, and the bombing is still keep going. They're
Mm.
still training U.S. and European armies in Sardinia every year. So in summer you have beautiful beaches and tourists and resorts, and in winter you have behind these beautiful resorts a war going on.
War, yeah, just
Mm.
war games. So
Yeah.
that's yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it looks absolutely spectacular. Like when you have a look at the ocean. I mean, we're
Yeah.
pretty spoiled here, but that looks really lovely as well.
It's Caribbean. Yeah, the water
Yeah.
is just looks like, I've been to the Caribbeans, and I must
Yeah.
admit, like, Sardinia water, it's really, really beautiful and more clear than the Caribbean.
Yeah. And you grew up there until you were 20, is that right? You actually lived in Sardinia, or did you live in
Yeah,
the
I grew
mainland?
up to no, I be between Rome and Sardinia.
Mm.
So I used to do winters in Rome, and some years I actually spent also winter in Sardinia, which was a bit tough because it's unfortunately suffering from depopulation. So a lot of young people are moving out because there's not enough work opportunities. Even though it's one of the richest places and lands in Italy, it's
Mm.
very fertile. It's beautiful. It should enjoy so much wealth, but unfortunately, it doesn't happen because Italy, when they conquered it, they just set up in a way that they would just take all our resources. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. It's really I don't know. It's quite intriguing how some of these things came to be. In the times of, I guess, conquest and what have you. And what's their inspiration, or what do they get, or do the government get out of allowing other countries to come and practice there?
Yeah, the government is too early in the morning. The government makes about 50,000 euro per minute. It's
Mm-hmm.
like something ridiculous. So we're trying
Oh,
to make us so much money out of us.
wow.
So they come, shoot missiles and bombs and containing lots of nasty things that kill people
Yeah.
for years to come, because some of that stuff you just don't, can't get rid of it. Stuff that has also materials, metals like the uranium and thorium. They just get more radioactive by time passes. Is like, I don't think some of those metals, it's like 300,000 years radioactive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then
That's
they generate nanoparticles. It's really crazy.
yeah, it
Uh,
is. Yeah.
but they
I mean,
make money.
well,
We get
yeah. I
sick.
mean, yeah, yeah. It's lots of money at the cost of some people, which is, I guess, just unfortunately a
Mm.
common story all around the world, really,
Yeah,
isn't it? It's just a
yeah, for
sad,
sure.
sad thing. So tell me about anthropology and, what drew you to that to begin with? Were you always someone who had an interest in people and society? Like, how did you find yourself going and studying
Yeah.
in that field?
Well, the first thing I actually did was criminology. I did that at university. I loved it, but at the end of the day, I don't know, was not going, to the roots of evil, because a lot of people that commit evil acts are the ones that have not been protected by society and are doing it for a reason. That it's mostly because they they've come from a disadvantaged background. They haven't been protected when they were kids, so they were faced malnutrition and abuse and all sorts of things.
Mm,
So I thought, okay, let's see. So the roots of everything is inequality. So let's study why that happens and how can be prevented, how I can be an agent of change and being part of the solution, not the problem. So I went to study, anthropology, and I did a master in international development. So I worked on different projects around the world, and the best part was connecting with indigenous people of Australia
wow.
and getting to know the struggle, and but the amazing culture and hearts. It was hard to get in, actually, even though I was working for an Aboriginal organization which was
Mm,
dealing with health in New South Wales in particular. Um, to get accepted, it takes a while, because of course they don't trust people coming from the outside. So it takes a while, but once you're in, and it's
yeah.
a really amazing thing to be part of.
Yeah.
They taught me a lot.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I consider myself to be quite fortunate in, well, one, I grew up in the country, so I had, I guess a good exposure to a wide range of people, and we moved a bit as well. But when I was 19, I'd finished school and I kind of was taking a year off just to see what I wanted to do with my life, and I wasn't interested in rushing into university. And a mate of mine got a job with this company that were going to go travel in the Northern Territory selling family portraits door to door. And so I, at the time, thought, okay, that sounds like an adventure. I've never been to the Northern Territory, so let's do it. So we went off on this journey in these dodgy cars and not the sort of thing that you want to be driving if now that we've all seen Wolf Creek, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
especially that.
exactly like that car, exactly
Oh
like
my
probably the
god.
same model. And we went out to these areas like in Tennant Creek and Catherine and some other little
Wow,
places in
beautiful.
between. And they have, of course, Aboriginal settlements outside of town, which is quite sad, really, in its own way, because some of them they literally fence them into these areas at night time. It's because of the alcohol fueled violence, which I ultimately see as our fault to begin with. When I say our, I'm
Completely,
talking,
yeah.
the Western society who brought it to them. But I did find the same thing that you said, that once they, like when we went out there, at first everyone was really strange, you know, a bit wary, and you were kind of like, okay, how's this all going to go down? Are we going to get beaten up? Are the dogs going to eat us? The dogs were a bit nasty the whole time, to be honest, but the people warmed up, and the kids were amazing from the start. But once they knew that we're actually there, you know, and they love family, right? So they really loved the photos, and they would sign up. And yeah, I just found some of the most beautiful people I've ever met in my life, really, you know, amongst the Aboriginal people there. So I think it's really sad in Australia that not very many people actually get to have that experience, you know?
Absolutely, it is. And there's so much discrimination, and they don't know, they just don't understand all the adversities that they face every day, all the trauma. The past is actually, now it's discovered, being passed through DNA trauma.
Wow.
So being colonized, that was trauma. Being taken away from the families, that's another massive trauma. How can you deal with that without, you know, trying to escape through drugs and booze if you don't have counseling to deal with post-traumatic stress disorder?
Yeah, absolutely. So the sort of work that you were doing at that time, what kind of programs or sorts of initiatives did you put in place?
So because some of these communities unfortunately have a lot of high infection of STIs, so sexually transmitted diseases, because they don't have protections available and easy to get. So there is a lot of that going on. So I said, well, let's see how we can curb this. Let's figure how to figure out how to lower the at least increase education. Of course, that was the main thing to do.
Yeah.
So what I thought, I was like, okay, I'm pretty creative myself. And I know that Aboriginal people love music, love art, and all these sorts of beautiful things that help them also connect to the country and to the origin. So I tested this program, which is still going and is really taken off, which is educating through graffiti art.
Oh, wow, awesome.
So we would go to, you know, a community, a town, or even a juvenile justice detention center. We would get a big wall and get a famous graffiti artist with us, and teach them how to do graffiti, proper graffiti, with this graffiti artist.
Yeah.
And then teach them how to protect, you know, for, I don't know, hepatitis C or other STIs, and then make a big mural together with a message of how to protect and sorts of things like that. And yeah, they loved it. It's you know, there's a lot of beautiful skate parks with the right message, with this graffiti art, or juvenile justice detention centers. And at the same time, do a peer-to-peer education. So getting, you know, young people to teach other young people about how to protect, you know, from this action. So yeah, it's still going. I'm very proud of that little baby I made, that it's still out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that, and I love that sort of thing as well, actually. Street art, I follow a few different people on Instagram, and at one stage, well, it still kind of exists. I think I'll probably do it just every so often, which sort of fits with the theme. But I was running a show called Tangent Tuesday, where I kind of would just, you know, kind of interview all sorts of interesting people from all over the world, doing just whatever I found to be particularly interesting, you know, and often kind of stuff that's a bit more fringe, I suppose. And there's a guy that I've been following for a while called That Damn Vandal, and he of course started as a, you know, illegal graffiti artist, but now all he does is commissioned work, and he does these amazing wall art, and you know, he's done things with Reebok on shoes and other brands like that. Yeah, it's really cool. It paints cars for like Lamborghinis and stuff like that in this graffiti style. It's pretty it's
very cool.
Yeah. So, like, then what happened that I guess got you thinking, I want to do filmmaking, or how did that journey begin?
I think also I was making great stuff there, and you know, connecting with people, but I think I was getting quite down. You know, I think those stories were really getting to me. I was really. Sometimes I would just go back to my hotel room or motel where I was staying in the community and just bawl my eyes out, and I'm thinking this is not enough. It's just such a small contribution.
Yeah.
What it really needs is a systematical change. And in order to do that, I would like the rest of Australia to see these stories and to understand what I'm understanding. Because I don't think we're going to have a major impact just by only little story, little programs like those ones. I think it's just needs a systematic change. Needs the majority to understand what the minority needs, and how to heal this wound, the open wound. So I decided to use my artistic skills to tell these stories. And so I quit my job, which is also really quite well paid, and ended up, actually at the time I was my another job still connected with the Aboriginal community, because they offered me from that position other position in a jail, in Long Bay jail, one of the biggest jails.
Yeah.
And and I was inside a jail getting eye scanned and fingertips scanned and all that kind of stuff, and I was inside the hospital because I used to deal still with the Aboriginal people's health. And I was thinking, oh my God, this is it's too much for me. I'm very empathic. And it was just getting to me and thinking, why am I in jail? What happened to me? I'm an artist in a desk. And I just thought, this is not my calling. I know I can do better than this using whatever skills I was born with. So I quit my job and put myself in film school at 32, yeah. And I never looked back. Starting all over again, but I would do it over and over. It was just, I love what I do, and it shows.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, that was one of the things I suppose I was curious to find out about with the success that you've had with Balentes. Whether
you still pronounce it really well, by the way.
Oh, did I? I could.
Very good.
Each time I'm saying it, I'm thinking I don't even know whether I'm saying it the same way each time. So I was like a bit nervous. But the success that you've had there, how much of that would you attest to? I guess how close it is to you personally, because they always talk about write what you know when it comes to narrative. Within the documentary space, do you think because it was, I guess, your hometown and you were kind of in that journey, do you think that had a big part to play?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you're right. The first thing they say, like, tell the story of your tribe, and I did tell the story of my tribe. But at the same time, I was more closer to the Aboriginal tribe than my Sardinian tribe.
Right.
So I kind of got treated a little bit like the outsider. They thought I was more the Australian in Sardinia.
Right.
So it took a little while to get trusted by Sardinian people. Sometimes I still struggle if they don't know me or haven't heard about me yet. But getting respect from people that have struggled to trust, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So, but it was of course, because so close to my heart. I put everything I had. I self-produced it. It took me 5 years to finish it, with lots of tears. I must admit, I touched the bottom there. Like, sometimes I just didn't even know where I could spend my nights. I went to a point where I was just like, I finished all my money. I just don't know how I can survive now. But I had lots of friends helping, and I just made it, and it was worth it. All the sacrifices I made.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congratulations. I mean,
thank you.
I think that this is, I think, I've only scratched the surface, like in terms of like a filmmaker journey. In terms of, last year I had quit my corporate role and decided I wanted to go after, getting into filmmaking, and I was doing it the other way around. Though I was kind of just self-taught and YouTube podcast, different events and just basically starting out doing small jobs, just the typical story, and trying to ladder my way up. And
Yeah.
but it
Right.
gave me such an appreciation, and even now, I just think it's just such a monumental effort that relies on so many moving parts, so many different people, so many favors. I can see like why people get emotional when they win different awards. I imagine in my head, because it's just the sort of person I am. Like I can't help, like even like at the beginning, I can't help thinking about winning the Academy Award of something. But I just think, yeah, like it would be really emotional because you put so much on the line. Yeah.
Exactly. It's your baby, it's everything and it's such a long gestation period that you just go like, oh my God, I can't believe I did it.
Yes. And so now you've had so you won the Berlin International Film Festival Award recently.
Yeah.
What other have you picked up? I know you've been in a number of them, but I don't know how many others you've won. What other laurels do you have at the moment?
Well, yeah, starting to collect quite a bit actually.
Yeah.
I had the Impact Doc Award. There's an American one. It's pretty. I'm very proud of that one. So how my film made an impact. So that was one of the biggest actually in America, the Impact Doc Award. That one, then Life After Oil, best doc of feature documentary. And then and then I got like actually toured all Australia. I went to cinemas with Palace Cinemas actually. So we
Yes.
had 32 projection screenings all over Australia, which was really I was really proud of. I got hit a bit by the media, which was great. Then what else? I went to America to did another cinema tour through an Italian film festival there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, went through different cities around, which was great. Then I don't know, they toured a lot. It's actually really great how much, and it's still like they ring me up saying, "Hey, can you show your film? Can we, still screen it?" And I'm very proud of my little baby.
Yeah, that's awesome. How do you, I mean, how do you finance that travel? Just out of curiosity, how do you manage to be able to go to do that work?
Well, a lot of times, it's off by cinemas or, the film festivals. So they do
Yeah,
cover the costs, which is great, and they
yeah,
pay for the screenings. And, it's just really, it's actually quite good now. You're starting to, reap a little bit of benefits. It's not, of course, it's not a lot, but it covers at least your trips and things and,
yeah,
and to keep going with your work.
yeah. Definitely, that's great. Hey, I feel like I'm not sure if your audio is perhaps breaking up a little bit. Are you going through the laptop or
I'm going straight to the computer.
straight to the computer? Yeah, I don't know whether I can adjust setting, but just bear with me because I can hear it making a bit of
I can hear
noise,
some delay,
like a hissing sort of sound. This is the
or I can
bane.
change the headphones if it's maybe other ones work better.
Yeah, I'll just try to see. I might just change. I'll just try to change this little setting here. Let's see if that's going to make any difference.
Is it better? I don't hear
No,
the echo anymore.
you don't. Yeah, no. There's it's still. Yeah, it's still there. So maybe try. You could probably try without the headphones on now because I turned the echo cancellation on. So you might better do it without the headphones.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. And then did you unplug those? Unplug.
Yeah, they're unplugged.
Huh. Okay. I'm not too
Oh, yeah,
sure.
no, let me hold on. Sometimes the vents of the computer, I think, might interfere.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know. Like I've been working towards changing from StreamYard to another product that probably gives me a little bit more fine tuning of these things. And literally, while I was actually running late, is I was trying to run around and I'm trying to upgrade. So I've now got this, which I haven't had time to plug in yet, and I've got a new microphone and a boom arm and stuff that I wanted to get.
Awesome.
I don't know about you, but I'm one of those people where I love learning about video and the art and craft of whether it's composition or whether it's different techniques, for editing or pretty much anything. I can happily learn about it. But then when it comes to sound, it's a real chore, like I just feel like I'm having to struggle through. I'm like, I really don't want to have to deal with all of this, but I want the finished result, so I'm just kind of,
yeah,
I'm battling on, and I hope that with that might help to pick things up, because there's a strong chance that the results are, some of the problems are coming from interference at my end, because I've got some like cheap, shoddy parts that I've just bolted together to get started, as is often the way.
Exactly, that's normal.
Yeah, so tell us about some of your other projects. Like, what was the first thing that you had that, I guess, then went out and aired, and where did it screen?
So the first project. So
yeah.
The first project was a short doc that called "Live Through This," and was a beautiful story, an Aboriginal story of an Aboriginal man that lost his mother because his dad killed her. Basically, it was a domestic violence incident, and it was very touching. And he concluded that after this guy struggled a lot after his mother was killed by his father, he ended up meeting his dad again, and and saying to his dad that he forgave him, and it was a really beautiful, touching story of a father and son relationship, and that won a lot of awards, and always traveled the world too in film festivals, and I think that one made me realize that, okay, maybe I know how to do this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be okay. So that was great.
That's
and
awesome.
The one that I'm finishing for Al Jazeera, which it's about COVID. It's a Milan COVID story.
Yes.
It just happened. I received a call saying, Al Jazeera would like, to see if you have a story for them from Milan during COVID times, and so I found a guy that was actually in film production, and he was doing volunteering for the Carabinieri, the alternative Italian police,
right?
The paramilitary police, and they were, he was working at the COVID-19 hotline, so the emergency hotline. So I followed him for a month, and I made a documentary called Emergency 112, which is the number that you call. And and it's coming out soon. And Al Jazeera would like to send it also to film festival because they think it's really strong film. And so it's a 25-minute doc for the witness. So you might find it soon. It will come out very shortly. So Emergency 112 from Al Jazeera Witness.
Emergency 112. I'll pop that up there as well. So tell me about working with Al Jazeera. So how did they come by you to start with?
Somebody that was working at Al Jazeera actually contacted me on Instagram saying, I've been following your work. I heard that, I work for Al Jazeera and they're looking for stories of COVID, and you are in Milan in the hotspot. Would you be able to get in touch with us and see if, you have a story that is strong for us to do? And so they offered me this commission, and it was an amazing journey. They're a great team. They really look after their the filmmakers. I must admit that's really great and refreshing. After I got screwed over by ABC correspondents, foreign correspondent, I can tell you that working with this other channel is a completely different thing.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. So now, I mean, you put it out there. So tell us, tell us what happened in terms of foreign correspondent.
Yeah, see, that was on the Australian a few times as well. Like, we denounced that, and we got lawyers involved. It was, that was a very dark time, and it was very, very unlawful from them. So when my film came out in Australia and was doing really well. Actually, I got invited to different channels, the morning news and things like that, to talk about it. The Australian ran, the story, like they did a full page on it. It was amazing. Wow. Yeah. Really, really a lot of people connected to the film. And I got contacted by the ABC saying, "Oh, wow, we love this story. And, and can you get in touch with us?" Like, okay, cool. So I was like, okay, great. So I guess you want to buy the film. And I'm like, no, we don't want to buy the film, but we thought about, doing a story about it on Foreign Correspondent. And I was like, okay, great. Okay, yeah, that would promote my film. That would be great. So, so they still hurts telling the story because it's the worst thing that happened to me so far, I must admit. In my work career, of course, and there's some bad things, but this is the worst, the lowest of the lowest that somebody would do that. So I said, okay, well, what's the story? So, are you going to talk about my film and, and how, I came up with the story? Like, are you going to tell the real story that you found this story because of my film and because this? And it's important that my film and my research, because if you watch it, my film has 5 years worth of research. It was the biggest part is finding people, reading all the documents, the court hearings, all these sorts of things. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, sure, of course, they put it in writing saying, yeah, we acknowledge that, we know about this because of you. You're going to help us getting all the people and we'll get you involved and blah, blah, blah. So at the end, they sent Emma Alberici to Sardinia. And and she screwed me very well. Wow. She did the story. She replaced me with her, basically. They copied everything. They actually they got me to give them all my contacts, and which I did because I was like, well, I was there helping me. They interviewed me and everything. So, it was part of the story. So I helped them and I thought, that's great. So we're going to talk about my film, what's happening, the problem is going to be promoted, everybody wins, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Instead, she basically made a copy of my film, basically. Like shot by shot, even the same angle of the camera in the same spot. I had to get a lawyer. I made a document, a PDF folder of 38 pages with, Emma Alberici film and BALENTES, shot by shot, storyline by storyline. Everything was exactly the same as my film. And they didn't give me any money for the rights, nothing at all. They ended up removing it. They sold it even to Al Jazeera before I started working. So Al Jazeera had no idea. I made so much money out of my 5-year work. So
that's terrible.
It was terrible. And also the Australian picked up the story. They rang me and said, we heard about what happens, let us run a few articles on it. And yeah, we ran a few times, and Emma Alberici was trying to quieten the story, even among the ABC people. They were like, people were going asking her, and that's what I heard. She was like, she kept saying like, "Don't mess with me, stay out of this," Like she was intimidating people to shut it down, and they were getting lawyers, they're lawyers, of course, they work for this there.
Yeah.
So I had no chance to actually take this further because, of course, I had no money. I you know, I was just came out of a 5-year working for no money, you know, and so yeah, and I ended up sort of having, you know, I couldn't pay for a lawyer anymore. But
Yeah.
anyway, my karma is a bitch, and you know what? And she deserved everything that came for her afterwards. In fact, you know,
Yeah.
I'm still playing, I'm doing what I'm doing because my, you know, my soul is pure. It all come from the
Yeah.
heart, and
Yeah.
her doesn't. So
Yeah, it's so, I mean, I don't know about you, but like for me, when I first encountered people in my adult life who really were unscrupulous and completely took advantage of me, it was just a shock, you know, like, and you just, you know, particularly if you, I mean, you strike me as someone who has a good heart, and I would imagine people who, a lot of people in the documentary space, I think probably are humanitarian type people, and
yeah,
you know, I
exactly.
certainly value people who are down to earth and honest, and I think that that's probably a way that you would connect and, you know, resonate with your subjects, for lack of better terminology, when you're going to create material that involves them, is to have that side. So yeah, I mean, and all that research work, because that was something I wanted to talk to you about, was the research, because I've not created a documentary, but I always thought, you know, I love watching documentaries and I love people, so I had kind of thought that that could be really interesting. So how do you normally, do you have a process that you kind of go down, like when you start to try to, I guess, gather material, and what kind of material do you typically go looking for?
I think the first thing is hit Google and see what comes up. And yeah, that's the first thing. And then from there, you understand if anybody talked about it. And then you try to get the contact of the person you read that talked about it, or made a research, or made a paper, or wrote an article on, you know, on a paper, on newspaper. So you just try, you know, to put all the pieces together. So see who's out there, and then you connect with them, speak to them. You know, the hard part of this documentary was that not many people wanted to talk about it. You know, it's it's taboo, it's dangerous. So that's the hard part. So I put, you know, also my own life at risk, with intimidation, with, you know, was really hard. And then through understanding there is a court case, you read, you know, learn how to read jurisprudence language, and trying to, you know, in 2 different languages, first in English and then in Italian. And then also, you put it together, all this puzzle starting to look like a picture. And then there's the editing part, which of course is putting all this research into an editing flow, or you include the research in the editing process, to make a bigger picture. Because generally, you know, when the editing, you understand what's missing, but you don't know what the puzzle looks like at the end. So it's hard. So it just keeps growing and growing till, you know, from Sardinia went into the UN and NATO, and the, you know, the United Nations Resolution Center, and, you know, Iraq, Bosnia. You know, the film has touched so many different countries because it's a universal theme. It's actually it's a world problem, and that's why I was recognized by, you know, the Uranium International Festival as, you know, one of the most outstanding films that they ever had. Because of my research was, you know, it's like I did a PhD pretty much on the subject, and now I spoke about it at the, you know, the Italian Parliament. I'm aiming to go to the European Parliament. My film was actually requested as a proof to the trial of Sardinia, compensation for the damages that they caused. So it's, you know, it's doing a lot of, you know, great things and going far, and and we will submit also an application for the Human Rights Convention. So
yeah. How many other countries or locations in the world are in a similar situation? I imagine there are a few.
Yeah, there are a lot. Of course, all the places where this, you know, the US and the NATO has bombed, because they use this, you know, these chemicals, these elements like uranium, which is, you know, so deadly, and create nanoparticles. So they, so it's Iraq, is Afghanistan, Bosnia, yeah, all the Balkans, basically. There's a lot of, there are right now nearly 4,000 Italian military soldiers that have died of cancer because of these military actions in these countries.
Wow.
So it's massive. It's really massive.
Yeah.
And these are Italians. Imagine like the rest of Americans. There are so many. Like I remember, you know, reading a lot about American depleted uranium poisoning in the US soldiers. And even at the, you know, the Berlin screening, we had, you know, a German guy, a German man that served in the German military and was training in Sardinia. And he was like, you know, I was the one that shoot those missiles, and I didn't know that the consequences were like that. If I did, I wouldn't have done it, and I would have shame of it. And
wow. I mean, some of the imagery just in the trailer of the mutations with the animals was so disturbing. Like, you know, because I saw it a few times over. You know, I was just, I was kind of a bit mind-boggling, really. And I mean, if that's happened to like animals, I mean, it's who knows what sort of effect it's had on people. You know, it's just really really sad.
If people watch the film, they'll find out.
Yeah, 100%. It's on Prime, Amazon Prime at the moment.
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime, on iTunes, and also on Vimeo on Demand. I think maybe Vimeo on Demand might work better in Australia.
Okay.
Because of censorship. I couldn't afford to get it censored in Australia yet, you know, through the classification system. Yeah. So it's one thing I love to do, but so it's available in the rest of the world. It's funny, in Australia, it went through, it's okay to go through cinemas and everything like that without classification. But I haven't got it. And unfortunately, I had the funds to go through that process, and it takes a while too. So I thought, oh, well, maybe there's other ways.
Other ways that people can view it. You know, it's interesting that you manage that, because this has probably filled in a little blank in my knowledge of that. But for many, many years, I think even going back to childhood, my sisters and I used to, we didn't realize that was the way that the classification system worked, you know, that someone was having to pay for the rights. We just wondered why we see so many movies come out in the theater that are not yet classified. And we just thought it was like that the classification people were either vastly understaffed or just really lazy. We were just like, why don't those bums watch these movies and like classify them?
No, because unfortunately you have to pay for it, and it shouldn't be that way, I think, you know, especially because a lot of filmmakers that make great films don't have all this money to spend on classification. It's just basically somebody watching it. I can tell you that, you know, maybe people under 14 should watch it, you know, because sensitive content.
Way to make money. That's exactly right. Yeah. So, I mean, this is as good as any segue to have a brief chat about film Flicks for Good, which is the venture that I'm ultimately working towards. I mean, this is a passion project, Filmmakers, and it's because I have a significant interest in it, and I love movies and quality TV, documentaries, and things like that. But it does also tie a little bit into what I decided to do when I was, the coronavirus came in, and my kind of little fledgling video production business was already struggling for survival for a year anyway. And then that happened. And then I was just like, oh, my goodness, now like I'm completely up the creek. I tried to be clever. I thought, okay, there will always be people who will be doing more business regardless of what's happening. There's always going to be demand. Toilet paper was going crazy. And I thought, well, who even people selling bidets and things like that. I approached people like that to see whether they might need some content. And maybe it was just too early, but nobody was going for it. So I was like, okay, well, here I am, and now like I'm potentially going to have like effectively no job, no income, and like not much money in the bank. So before long, we could even have no food in the house. And I know enough about people, and I worked in recruitment for many years, and so I understand that 70% of people in the world spend what they earn. And so I know from my own experience, like even when I was making really good money, we were pretty much spending it. My wife would hate me to say this, but I just think it's more important to share.
Oh, just one second. I've got
no problem. Yeah. So, I mean, and that's sort of my philosophy, really, that that I think it's better to share information, because then other people who are in similar circumstances, they can potentially not feel as bad. And I think there are a lot of people in the world at the moment who are in tricky situations, and it's still going to flow on. I don't think we've seen the full fallout yet from COVID, and I don't even know how. I don't actually know the full details of exactly what's happening in every other country around the world to know, for example, whether they even have any stimulus support. We're really fortunate here in Australia that the government increased access for most people in most industries to be able to get some sort of money to survive, but that's not necessarily the case for everybody. Yeah, so I was just thinking about all these things, and I was thinking about the fallout of it all, and then spikes in suicide or domestic violence or just homelessness or whatever, and it's still on my heart. And I just was thinking, well, what could I? A bit like you, I was thinking, well, what could I do? And I was just thinking, like, what are the tools that I possibly have? What knowledge do I have? And it just kind of came together with it. It was an older idea that I had originally about creating a social enterprise-based video streaming service for the purpose of helping filmmakers to fund their films and then provide them with a fair platform that they could actually screen and show their finished product without getting ripped off. Because I've learned a lot about, predatory film distributors overseas really taking advantage of people. And so it's really a rejigging of that. That part still really exists, and that heart for the filmmaker and the creative. So what I'm doing is creating a video streaming product that will hopefully in time rival the other guys and provide the same sort of content. So everything ranging from narrative to documentary to I think there'll be a little bit of user-generated content, but probably curated. So it won't just be a free-for-all. It might be more like, hey, we select some content from different people and we package that in together. And I also hope to get some goodwill content from different people who overall see that the mission, because the goal is to raise money and awareness for people and causes around the world. So that way the people who are on the front line helping, whether it's Food Bank or Beyond Blue or smaller grassroots people, whoever they may be, we can create money through ad revenue and donations and things like that and provide that to them. So that's kind of it. That's a little bit of a Flicks for Good sort of ad. I mean, you got to throw one in there at some stage.
I love it. Great.
Yeah, that's what we need. Yeah, and then hopefully with that, I can tackle some of those challenges of the regions and maybe make it a bit more achievable for people to be able to screen. Because the ultimate goal for me is to have the same content available in all countries and to use that vehicle of entertainment as a way of getting education material to people in third world countries. So if somebody's got a smartphone and they could get access to the service the goal is for it to be free for them, and for them to be able to then sort of have material on there that might teach them about ideas to do with starting businesses or just different things that could help them better themselves, translated in their language. That's the ultimate goal. So it's verbally comes to them. That it doesn't matter if they can read or write, that they could watch the same stuff that we all watch as far as entertainment goes, and they could also tune into good quality educational material and find ways that they can go out and improve the world around them. That's kind of the big dream, really.
Amazing. Yeah, for sure. That's a great idea. I definitely support that.
Thank you. Well, look, hey, we're sort of coming up towards the hour, so I really appreciate you coming on board and chatting to me. Now, out of interest of the different adventures that you've had, whether it's been through work or whether it's been in your personal kind of adventures, what would be the most memorable, I suppose? What kind of springs to mind when you think of, I guess, some of the more crazy situations you found yourself in?
Well, I guess, we just recently did the crossing with sailing from, we had to take, my family's sailboat from Greece that was there to Sardinia. And so it's a long, long way, trust me. It took us 2 weeks full on sailing. And the thing is that we're stuck because coming from Greece, Italy ports were all blocked for us. We couldn't get off the boat because, COVID restrictions. So we actually had quarantine on the sailboat. And because of that, we couldn't see all the beautiful parts of the south of Italy. We just had to kind of, circumnavigate and went straight to Sardinia and did a lot of overnight sails. We shot a bit of a small short documentary about this adventure sailing during COVID times. Yeah, it was pretty fun, pretty crazy, shooting in the middle of the night. There's no boats around or really massive ships going through. So you had to, be up and, stay up to trying to steer the boat. Yeah, that was pretty fun.
Make sure you didn't get run over. And were your parents on the boat with you?
I had my fiance, because actually we got engaged during this trip, which was really nice.
Yeah. I saw that actually, and I think I even I can't remember now because I downloaded a few different pictures from your Instagram, and I can't remember. I think I included it in the picture.
I saw it. Yeah, I think I saw it.
A little shock notice. Oh, that's really nice. So that's lovely. Well, congratulations. Thank
you very much.
Exciting. Yeah. My wife and I love the term fiance. I think it's one of the better ones. I don't know. I really enjoyed sort of saying, "Oh yeah, my fiance and my fiance." I don't know. I like that.
It's a bit of an old thing. I don't know. I mean, always so alternative, so strange, and so different. But now I'm kind of like, wow, like now being a little bit more traditional, it's different for me. So it's like, I want to do like, something a bit, that's why I said if we get married, you have to propose and do the thing, the ring, which actually we've just been waiting that is being resized. And film it and try to find a way that I don't realize it and film it because I'm a filmmaker. And so
wow, you really put the pressure on there made it really made it challenging. Oh my goodness, yes. Well, it's funny. Yeah, my wife kind of had me on my toes because she had always talked about having this cushion cut diamond, and then I think like a week or so before I was going to propose, and I had this kind of elaborate thing with a bit of a holiday involved, a secret, surprise getaway and stuff. And she was like, "Oh, I think I really like black pearls." Like she was just randomly talking about it, and so that's what she ended up getting. But like, so the poor jeweler, I didn't really know, and like I said to the guy, "Oh, like if you got some," he's going, "So got some," and then and asked him how long it would normally take, and I think it was something like 2 or 3 weeks or something, because it's got the black pearl with some diamonds around it, and then I think he must have seen the look on my face because he was sort of like, "Oh, okay, well, when's this happening?" I'm like, "Well, I booked this holiday like, next next weekend. He's like, okay, well, I'll have to have it ready. So thanks to him. Yeah, he really got it together and brought it together.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it's a bit different. Yeah, which is kind of fun as well.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I'll let you go and get crack on with your day. Please stay in touch. I really am going to see if I can get my hands on maybe through Vimeo now. And for everybody, this is the spelling again, BALENTES, which I love that, the brave ones. And I think there's even more depth to that. I saw maybe in one of the reviews or somebody was saying that it's people who kind of like a warrior type sort of person who protects the country, which is ultimately, you know, what you've set out to do, which is beautiful. So thanks so much for talking. Please stay in touch.
Thank you. Absolutely.
I look forward to seeing your travels, and we'll hopefully talk again sometime down the line.
Goodbye, Australia.
Bye. Excellent stuff. Great to hear of people who are, you know, I guess taking their creative skills and finding ways to use them to make an impact in the world and to be a voice sometimes for people who don't have a voice, which I think is really important. All right, everybody, make sure you do all the right things, subscribe, like. It really does make a big impact, particularly at this early journey part of the story. And there are more episodes coming. There are prior episodes that I filmed on Instagram in the early phases, not as good a quality, but, you know, in terms of the picture, but great guests that I'm going to upload at some stage shortly too. Or if you're really, really eager, you can just go straight to Brad for Good and check that out there. And also, of course, Flicks for Good. If you head over, there's just a holding page at the moment. Simply pop your email, say, hey, I'm keen to stay up to date with what's happening with that story. And we're gearing up to do a really big global awareness campaign to try and get people, I guess, to say, hey, we like the idea of it. And then we'll do sort of crowdfunding from there. So, and it's not going to be a big ask, so don't be put off if you don't have a lot of cash. I want everybody to be able to be involved. And then next time, we're going to have, hopefully, all this stuff going. And let's hope that it's actually going to be worth all of the traveling around. Woo! That's all a bit exciting for me. It may not mean very much for you, but gear, hey? Filmmakers and audio people, we love gear, so that's a bit exciting. And if anybody wants to find out more about my setup or what I'm doing, I'm thinking about maybe putting a little bit of info out about that too. Chuck it in the chat. Always keen to hear from people and to talk to people. And if you have also guest ideas, particularly people from my entry screen, all those classic movies, it doesn't matter if someone's working craft services or they were the director, I'm keen to talk to them because there are, I'm sure, lots of interesting tales that haven't been told before that I'd love to find. All right, hooroo.